All right, you're tuned in to High School Sports Talk. I am Josh Kirby. Check out all of my work on the Kirby on Sports podcast, www.kirbyonsports.com. We are in week 9. I can't believe the football season's almost over for the regular season. Here with me each and every week, Dan Gloster of the brand new Classic Country 95.7 station, where he called Kettle Run over Handley this week. Dan, thanks for joining us. How is everything?
Good, man. Good, man. It was a good trip to Kettle Run, and they got a real nice facility, so we were able to get the game on the air, which is the most important thing. And I think a few fans made the trip, but hopefully we had some fans here listening, and fortunately it didn't come out the way they wanted to with Handley getting a victory, but I'm sure Handley learned a few things about that loss. They always say you learn more from a loss than from a win. So
I obviously in this game, nothing to hang their hats on. Handley still is a very good football program. They beat Sharando last Saturday, which was a commanding win because they haven't beat Sharando in who knows how long. But Kettle Run, it seems like they are a pretty good team on that side, traveling down 66 just away. So what did you see in that game? Did Kettle Run overpower Handley? I was tuned in back and forth. I couldn't really make an accurate assumption, but what were your thoughts? What was your big takeaway from this game?
Well, we've seen Handley kind of struggle in the first half and then really turn it on in the second half. And this was kind of a flip of that, in that they played pretty well. In fact, they led at halftime 20-19. In the second half, they turned the ball over on the first play from scrimmage. It was recovered on their 10-yard line by Kettle Run, and Kettle Run, I think, scored maybe the next play. So just like that, the momentum was kind of gone from that really good first half of play, and they were down, and then they got down 2 scores, and then it just seemed like they kept they would get within a score, and then Kettle Run would score again, and you kind of had that, and then finally it was a 2-score decision in the end. Yeah, I think in the end, to answer your question, Josh, I do think that they wore them down. I think Kettle Run was able to sustain drives, and that kind of wore Handley's defense out, whereas Handley's offense would score on big plays. And so that it's a good thing, good to score, but then again, you put your defense right back out there. And I think in the end, they did wear them out a little bit.
Yeah, so looking at this loss for Handley, it doesn't really move them from what I've heard. And still to this point, I'm hearing that the Apple Cup will come down to the last game of the regular season between James Wood and Handley. And James Wood, who has never had ownership of the Apple Cup that comes from the Winchester Star. Yep. That's going to be an exciting game to look out for.
Yep. I mean, this game with Kettle Run was definitely had a lot to do with the Northwestern District standings, because Kettle Run now has first place, and they can win the district outright if they beat Sharando November 5th after their bye week, which is coming up. But as far as the Apple Cup, you're right. It's going to come down to Handley and James Wood. And even if I read in the paper that even if James Wood loses to Millbrook this Friday, they can still win the Apple Cup if they beat Handley. But Handley's won it before, but it's been a while. Sharando's kind of dominated that. And then Millbrook's won it, but as you said, James Wood has never won it. And, wouldn't they want to do that, considering that it is the Linden Bar, as in Walter Bar, Apple Cup, and, he was, he's just a famous football coach in the area. And, he kind of he led the Colonels to that state title back in I think 1970 was the year. Wouldn't they like to kind of spoil? I think a win over Handley would definitely help James Wood's playoff possibilities, whereas a loss might knock them out of the playoffs. And then again, there's Handley. They want to win, because they haven't won it in a while. And of course, it's named after Ron Linden, who won 2 state titles, led the Judges to 2 state football championships, 84 and 94. So going to be a lot riding on that game November 5th at the Ridge campus.
Absolutely. So, looking at other scores throughout week 9, a Thursday night matchup. Dan, you told me that this Millbrook versus Liberty contest was on a Thursday due to the availability of officials, and Millbrook goes to overtime and gets their first win of the season in Bealton.
Yeah, just a great win for Josh Haymore. You gotta, when you're going through a season like this with not any wins up to that point, and kids have been dealing with COVID a lot and injuries, and it just kind of, I'm sure the kids were just ecstatic. And Coach Haymore texted him on Friday, and he said it was one of the wilder games that he's been involved in, and just great to see those kids, get a win. It was tied at 31 at the end of regulation. I'm assuming that Millbrook won the toss, so they just chose to go on defense first, which Liberty then scored. They kicked the extra point. Then Millbrook, they get their shot and they score a touchdown. Then they decide to go for 2, and it's Dietrich Brown who runs it in for the 2-point conversion. So there's your win, and that keeps Liberty winless. And I guess it puts Millbrook at 1-7. And then Millbrook, they're going to have a lot more confidence going into that game with James Wood. That'll be senior night at Millbrook this Friday. So they're going to have a lot of emotion going into that game. So James Wood cannot take that game lightly. There's not for a second can they take that game lightly, considering that Millbrook is just 1 win, because I think the Pioneers would love nothing more than to knock off James Wood and kind of hurt their playoff chances, considering that Millbrook is not going to go to the playoffs. They're going to try and play the role of spoiler.
Yeah, absolutely. And you look over at the Liberty Eagles side of things. We've known each other for a long time, Dan, and you've been in Liberty's press box calling a variety of different games, and maybe Sharando's too. And Sharando and Liberty, they had a pretty good sort of clash going on. Sharando ending up winning to make it into the playoffs, and again for the region, my memory's fogged there, but I think that's how it went down. But now Liberty's winless. It's just crazy to see.
Yeah, I mean, it happens. I mean, Tony Rayburn, a great coach for Handley, just they went winless probably 4 or 5 years ago. And you never would have thought that would have happened. So it can happen. It's just one of those things where you don't get that talent coming through the halls, and you only can coach the players that you got. So and I'm sure they've had some bad breaks along the way, but they've played hard. They just haven't gotten a win. They play Handley on Saturday, and same thing that goes for James Wood goes for Handley on Saturday against Liberty. You don't want to take anybody lightly, because they can come up and bite you. And you hope that Handley's not looking past Liberty, because they've got the James Wood game, the old stale sandwich game. You hope they're not doing that. So I don't think they will. So again, but it's one of those things where it's, as they say, cyclical, that sometimes you just get the bad breaks. You don't have a lot of talent, and it happens. I think they finished with Fauquier, so they do still have a chance to win their final game. Pretty sure that Fauquier and Liberty always play last game of the year. So
yeah, well, I'll say this. I mean, it's just crazy, man. But moving on, we're gonna head north to the border. Dan, me and you thought that this Martinsburg versus Jefferson matchup was going to be a battle, but Jefferson only putting up 3 to Martinsburg. So
Yeah.
that sort of answered our question on how Jefferson is looking until you head to Martinsburg.
Yeah, I mean, a Frederick County sweep is nice, but you're playing with the big boys when you play Martinsburg, and they they've got talent uh, in droves at Martinsburg, to say the least. So it's only Jefferson's first loss, but kind of a dose of reality there. That just I think it was maybe fairly close early, but boy, did they blow them out in the second half to win it 44-3. That's quite an onslaught of points. Um, but again, that just shows how good Martinsburg is.
I mean, yeah, I'm not sure how it affects their playoffs or anything, but with just one loss and we're nearing towards the end of the regular season, I would assume Jefferson should be in the playoffs again, I would imagine, unless one loss is detrimental, which I don't think so. But yeah, that's West Virginia. We're in Virginia here, but who knows? They might play again. Yeah,
Yeah, sure.
I mean, that could be the case. I'm just assuming, but who knows? Maybe
Well,
Jefferson will come out and upset them.
I'm sure. And Kettle Run and Handley might play again. They
Oh
were
yeah.
ranked. They were ranked fourth and fifth in the power ratings for the Virginia 4C power ratings. So they could end up playing one another again down the road. But just a couple of stats for you, just from that game with Handley, and judges unofficially gave up 474 yards of offense,
Mm.
and they were allowing about 170 per game. So the quarterback play for Kettle Run was, I think, probably the difference in the game. And I don't know, but I can't imagine that they thought that this kid was going to be able to run the way he did. He had 119 yards rushing. He threw for 201 yards. So that computes to 320 yards of offense from your quarterback. And the biggest thing is the rushing yards, that he alone. And it wasn't like he was a speed quarterback. He was more of a bulky, stocky kid, but they really didn't have an answer for him. And they did a great job neutralizing Stephen Daly. Had him 19 rushes, 101 yards. But Handley, as you said, no reason to hang their heads. I mean, they gained 421 yards. I mean, usually you don't lose games when you gain that many yards, but I guess when you give up what they gave up, it makes it a little bit harder to win games. But again, I think they'll come out of that game maybe a little bit of a reality check, and they know where they need to improve, and they know that they've still got a chance to get some goals, to reach some goals that they've met. May not be the district title, but they can still make some hay, as you will, in the playoffs.
Absolutely. So moving on, James Wood over Fauquier 23-0. Low score, 23 points for James Wood, but only holding Fauquier to under around 55 rushing yards, 55 total yards, excuse me. That's impressive.
Oh yeah. And I think the low score is obviously testament to Fauquier, that they don't have a ton of talent, Josh, but they just play hard, and I think they just don't give up, and they just don't have a whole lot of talent on the offensive side of the ball, and that showed that they didn't even get close to 100 yards of total offense for the game. So you credit James Wood for that, of course, too. But James Wood next week, they're at Millbrook, and Handley's home to Liberty. So some good games coming up this weekend.
Do you know where your broadcasting assignment is?
Mm-hmm. Yep,
Where are you at?
Millbrook. James Wood at Millbrook Friday, and then Liberty and Handley on Saturday.
All right. So we have a double header for Dan on Classic Country 95.7 there. So make sure you look out for that. The last score, the single wing offense of Clarke County beats East Rockingham 28-14 by 2 scores, it looks like. So I mean, Clarke County, do you know how they are in terms of their standings for playoffs by chance?
I think they're ranked second in the Region 2B power ratings, ranked second this past week.
So they have they're on their way to the playoffs unless they lose out essentially, or something detrimental like that.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Yep.
All right.
Yep.
So
Got a chance. It sounds like they got a chance to host a game.
all right.
Yep. Yep.
So 28-14, Clarke County over East Rockingham there. And once again, your Millbrook James Wood on Friday night and the Handley game on Saturday. Yeah, I'm sure you're looking forward to some very good football in those matchups.
Mm-hmm. Okay. I expect an exciting game from James Wood and Millbrook. I think we'll see some points scored there because it sounds like Millbrook's kind of found their way a little bit with their offense, and James Wood, they're doing pretty well. So again, probably going to come down to if Millbrook can slow down James Wood a little bit, because Millbrook's defense, that's been a struggle for them this year. They get up a lot of points, a lot of yards, but again, you get some confidence in young kids and get a chance to knock off your crosstown rival. Sometimes that confidence, that momentum can go a long way.
Absolutely. Once again, Dan Gloster, catch his radio broadcast on Classic Country 95.7.iheart.com or your FM dial 95.7. Your week 9 football scores: Millbrook 39, Liberty 38 in overtime. Kettle Run over Handley 47-34. James Wood over Fauquier 23-0. Clarke County over East Rockingham 28-14. Sharando on a bye week. Dan, we appreciate the time again. We'll catch you next week.
All right, Josh, take care.
Make sure you check out all of my work, www.kirbyonsports.com, and we will catch you next time. So long.